Welcome to this explainer of the Zenith Ledger. Though honestly, it's really just a record of cosmic subtraction. You see, I once actually thought human logic could conquer this void we're floating in. Now, now I'm just here recording my own bitter end. The light out here is so dim, and frankly, I'm just incredibly weary. So brace yourself and let me explain how you make a journey into total exhaustion.
Look around. I'm just drifting in this cosmic void, trapped on a desolate skeletal ship that hasn't seen a drop of warmth in God knows how long. I stare down at this logbook, and I swear I feel the weight of my entire existence just pressing right against my ribs. The ink is dry, right? But the page feels heavy. Honestly, heavier than a hole completely full of iron. Because this is the last line. The grand destination I was promised, it wasn't some glorious triumph. It's just the end.
You know, I actually had a why once, a real burning reason to build, this desperate drive to strive and conquer the stars as a grand merchant. But guess what? The absolute finality of the dark out here, it does not care about your ambition, not one bit. It just reaches right into your chest and extinguishes your purpose. The abyss doesn't just take your life, it takes your why. It hollows you out, leaving you floating in a universe that is completely, utterly indifferent to your struggle.
Which brings us to part one of this ledger, lighthouses and fading flares, misinterpreting the guiding light. Think about it. I used to view lighthouses as friends. You probably do too, right? Warm beacons in the night meant to guide us safely back home through treacherous space. But out here, in this final abyss, that human need for safety, well, that was actually my absolute greatest vulnerability. I realized, with this sickening dread, that those lighthouses were just flares. We weren't being guided. Oh no, those fading flares were just signaling to the dark, pinpointing exactly where our lost hope and frightened little souls were hiding. The very things I built to protect myself were literally broadcasting my fragility to the void.
So my zenith is gone. There's no more logic to balance, no more math left to save me. I've become the merchant of nothing, just counting the heartbeats of a world that's already forgotten its own name. I seriously thought I had reached the absolute peak of existence only to find empty space. All those meticulous calculations I rely on completely failed. I'm reduced to a weary timekeeper, just tallying up fading pulses.
Moving on to the next chapter of this tragedy, the Fortress of Glass, the illusion of Victorian order. I remember screaming into the dark at him, at the Pale Inquisitor. I was so furious, I roared. You lured me here with the promise of precision. I spent a lifetime building a fortress of glass and Victorian order, believing every gear and oil lamp was a shield. And I did believe in the machine. I really thought that if I structured my life with enough shining brass and perfect order, it would somehow keep out the chaotic unknown. But he just watched me climb to my zenith, just to kick the ladder away. But he just stared at me. So cold, so totally detached. He shattered my entire delusion with this unbearable clinical precision. I told him I built a ladder to the zenith, a real sanctuary from the void. You know what he said? He told me my ladder was a target. He said my fortress wasn't a sanctuary at all, it was just a fragile display case. I had actually mistaken my own bright, shining vulnerability for strength. I was literally serving myself up on a silver platter to the waiting dark. And that leads us perfectly to part 3, the Inquisitor's cold truth. The exhaustion of logic. See, he didn't break my mind. He didn't have to. He simply let my clockwork wind down until there was absolutely nothing left to power it. He called it being purified through subtraction. It's this cosmic process of stripping away everything that made me human. My ambitions, my identity, my grand, self-important status as a merchant of stars. The cosmos just subtracted the merchant to leave behind a permanent agent of memory. Let me tell you, there is zero sympathy in the abyss. To exist here, you have to be reduced to a pure, unchanging instrument. When the absolute horror of my new existence finally washed over me, I realized I'm no longer trading silk or gold. No, I am a vampire of sorrows, bound to the bottomless memory of the abyss. I see this necrotic finality in every single soul I harvest. I'm trapped here on this skeletal deck, trading the chaotic noise of men's sins like they're just common spices. That vibrant, messy human life I once desperately clung to, it's completely gone. So this necrotic finality is the new reality. It's an absolute, dead-end collection of sorrow in a wasteland that never sleeps, and worse, never forgets.
We aren't grand explorers or conquerors anymore. We're both just clerks in a dead office, gatekeeping eternity, just endlessly filing away the regrets of a universe that went cold a long, long time ago.
I remember clutching at the fading remnants of my humanity, begging the void with one final, desperate question. I asked, was my life nothing but a messy draft for your amusement? All of it, my love, my loss, my meticulous Victorian order, was it really all just a rough sketch? Some kind of sick cosmic joke played out for the entertainment of the dark?
The Inquisitor's answer still echoes in my mind. It was a final, silencing blow. He said, "Amusement is a human luxury, Captain. We do not serve the light that fades, we serve the memory that remains when all the lighthouses have finally flickered into silence." And there was absolutely no malice in his voice. That's what makes it infinitely worse. Just utter, freezing detachment. The cosmos isn't laughing at me. It simply doesn't care.
Which brings us to the end. Part 4, A Ledger Full of Regret. The final transaction.
If we trace the tragic arc of my own downfall, the descent of my identity, it looks exactly like this. A lifetime spent building that fragile glass fortress. Then the zenith, right? Climbing an illusory ladder only to have it brutally kicked out from under me. Followed by the exhaustion, where my logic reached its natural, inescapable dead end. And finally, eternity. The merchant is completely gone. Only the agent of memory remains. The subtraction is totally complete. Here is the cold, hard truth you need to take away from all this. All that material wealth, the shining brass, the chaotic noise of men's sins, it's utterly worthless here. The true currency of the abyss, the absolute only thing that holds permanent value in this record, is the agonizing weight of what you could have done differently. The darkness doesn't want your gold. It wants your regret. So, I sit at my desk in the freezing dark. My heavy pages turned. The final scratch of my pen just echoes in the silence. And my ledger is finally full. There's literally nothing left to write, nothing left to trade, nothing left to be. My human identity has been fully, irreversibly eclipsed by the void. So hear this warning from the dark. When your own lighthouses have finally flickered into silence, when your safety nets are revealed as nothing more than fading flares drawing the void right to you, what memory will actually remain of you in the permanent record of the abyss? Will you be a merchant of nothing, or merely another heavy line of regret in the zenith ledger?